Hi everyone, I'm Cayli Yanagida and I'm the editor-in-chief of Vox Magazine, and welcome to this episode of Behind the Issue. Today we have the privilege of having Tyler White, who is a reporter for us, and yeah, welcome Tyler.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here and be able to talk about my story I worked on this summer. For this summer, I was able to work on a story kind of looking at the state of the arts of Colombia, especially with the recent news with the National Endowment of the Arts grants kind of being revoked around the nation. A lot of that does affect Colombia. Some of the organizations early on, back in May, kind of faced those issues. And so my story kind of targets, how that has affected the arts organizations here, but also what the community is doing to help kind of fight back against that, kind of that support and that unity that surrounds it.
For sure, yeah. And so, how have the funding cuts to the National Endowment for the Arts impacted the arts and culture and entertainment scene in Columbia and mid-Missouri?
Yeah, so like I said, it's kind of a nationwide thing, but kind of looking at Columbia, a lot of these organizations do rely on those NEA grants. Specifically, We Always Swing Jazz Series and Ragtag Cinema. They kind of focus on getting those grants to help with their day-to-day or with special events and stuff like that. And so losing that funding kind of creates this weird uncertainty of what budgeting looks like in the future, and just trying to figure out and navigate that. And so with we always swing, they had a lot of issues with, they just did their 30-year anniversary celebration, which a lot of that grant funding went towards, and when they found out they didn't have the money, well, they had already done the celebration at that point, and so they were trying to figure out ways to get that money back. And so kind of stuff like that, where it's like these grants that are used for these sort of special events, or even in Ragtag's case, those day-to-day operations, with those gone, there's a lot of questions about what do we do next.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and so who are some of the organizations that have been impacted by this?
Yeah, so like I said, obviously, We Always Swing and Ragtag were probably the biggest names that people know about because they lost grants. I mean, We Always Swing lost about $25,000. They had a grant of $25,000, and then Ragtag had $30,000. And so those were the two big ones. But there's a lot more to it than just those two organizations here in Columbia. Now, a lot of them aren't necessarily losing that money directly. What's going on is, so for example, the Missouri Arts Council gets a lot of their funding as well from the NEA. And so what we could be seeing in the future is some of these organizations like the Missouri Symphony potentially losing funding from the Missouri Arts Council, or just having less funding because that avenue of the NEA is no longer available. And so whether they're being funded directly from the NEA or it's from another organization that might also get their funding from the NEA, that's kind of what we're seeing happen now, where people don't really know where the money is going to come from next. And so that's kind of what's affecting Columbia as a whole.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. And so kind of how has the art scene in Columbia prevailed and worked past these obstacles that are in place?
Yeah, so it's been really cool to talk with a lot of these organizations, specifically with We Always Swing. So they lost that $25,000 after they had already done the event. And so, I mean, they were down $25,000, as simple as that. And so they started a 30-day campaign to try and bring back that money. And in those 30 days, they ended up raising about $14,500. And so a lot of it was the community just being like, hey, no, this is important to us. We want to see, We Always Swing succeed. We want to see you guys continue to prevail even after losing that money. With Ragtag, for example, I was talking with their executive director, and she mentioned that after the news had happened, they basically saw almost an all-time high in membership sales. And so there's clearly a lot of people who are wanting to voice their support and really show that. And, people are continuing to attend these events and continuing to voice their support and continuing to donate, giving recurring gifts and stuff like that. And so it's been really cool talking with these people and being able to see, Columbia is working together to really show their support for the arts community that, maybe at the federal level, they're not seeing that kind of support that they want.
Yeah. What can people in mid-Missouri do to kind of help support these organizations?
Yeah, so while I was talking with a lot of them, there were three things that came to mind. One, obviously, give. A lot of these organizations online, there are a lot of nonprofits, and so online they have opportunities to donate. We Always Swing actually just started their campaign for the 2025-2026 season. You can give online there. You can give to Ragtag. You can pay for memberships and stuff like that. Columbia Art League as well is also having that sort of thing. There's a lot of ways to actually give donations. I know Missouri Symphony also has a bunch of different kind of donation opportunities with different cocktail events and stuff like that. And so there's ways that you can give your money. The other way that I heard a lot of is giving your time. A lot of these places do provide a lot of events. There's always events on the calendar for these places. So even just showing up and showing that you want to be there is a great way to show your support for the arts. And a lot of these organizations love to see the people from the community come out and show that they want something like this in Columbia. And the third way that a lot of them talked about was sharing your stories and sharing your voice. I got to talk with Robin Westphal from the library, actually, and she had mentioned that one of the best ways to kind of show support is to share your stories about why the arts are so important to you. Just going out there and, telling friends, telling families, hey, look at this. These guys are doing something awesome in Columbia. Here's why I love it. Or going out and telling people like, hey, I love the arts and this is a way that I can experience it in Columbia. So those are the ways to do it. Your time, your money, and your voice.
So from a personal standpoint, why is art so important to you, and how does that really connect you with the community?
Yeah, so the whole reason why I'm here, and part of the reason why I'm a writer in the first place, is because of my love for art, specifically with music. I got into writing because of how much I love music. And so it's always been a part of my life and something that I've always loved. And what better thing to write about than something I absolutely love? And being in Columbia, one thing I've noticed is the arts are just super important to everyone here. It's such an art-focused community. There's so much that you can be a part of. Like I said, all these organizations are present. There's an art district, all that stuff. There's so much availability for the arts here, which I think is just so special. And so for me personally, that's kind of how I connect with the community. There's a lot of different places to experience music. Go look at cool art, just kind of engage with people in this sort of arts. There's art for everyone here, whether you like music, whether you like painting, whether you like books, film, whatever, there's a lot here. And so for someone, for like me personally, just because I love the arts so much, it's really cool to connect with the community and see a community like Columbia love the arts so much that they're willing to support and share their voice for it.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Behind the Issue. Please join us next time for more behind the scenes at Vox.